We're off to the races, son. Literally. We're off to Kodo. We're off to all these tracks where people are racing these ZR1s, but more importantly, we're racing into episode 29 for 2025. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. What's going on? Got a lot of
Just
news. A lot of news.
Yeah, a lot of news. A lot of news, and a lot of car news, a lot of worldly news that touches the automotive industry from all angles, I feel like.
Yep.
But I kind of wanted to start with something fun, unless you have somewhere you want to
No,
start.
I'm all good.
I get people to send me a variety of things, which I greatly appreciate it, both on my personal Review TV one and then obviously through Clutch Culture on Instagram. And there's a term that gets used across cars, SUVs, old vans, trucks, doesn't matter, and it's rare or the rarity of XYZ. And I don't want to be offensive to anybody, okay? Because I have fallen into that trap where I find something, or maybe I read about something enough times that convinced me that this was a rare item.
Didn't you and I shared this week? Somebody's like selling a Silverado or something. Wasn't like
Yeah.
a 17 Silverado.
But by the way, my brother-in-law has that exact same truck. And when I see him next time, I'm going to ask him, hey, is this a
how
rare
rare
spec?
is this?
How rare is this spec?
We all have to say something out loud. F40s, rare, ultra rare. That's the terminology. Your 2017 Silverado ... whatever trim package is not rare. Okay? This is always the Corvette joke.
That's true. That's what first thing I thought of.
There's no such thing as ultra rare Corvettes. They build a zillion of them all the time. Like people are like, "Oh, ZR1, gonna build a lot of them."
Including the new one.
Yeah, including the new one. And by the way, they're gonna build another Corvette next that's going to be better than the current Corvette. So therefore, most Corvettes are just never going to be rare, extremely valuable, or any of that because they build so many of them. Doesn't make them less cool that they're building a ZR1, but the next ZR1 will be better than the previous gen ZR1, making it not as rare, right? And they're going to build thousands upon thousands of them. We have gotten into, and by the way, now I'm seeing this like on 2002 Yukon posts. Oh, I had this rare package. It's like, buddy, it's a 2002 Yukon that has low mileage on it. You're asking $42,000 for it. And somebody's going to buy it, by the way. Let me.
That is a nice Yukon, by the way. That is a very nice Yukon.
Yeah, let me tell you this. Somebody's going to buy it. We all understand that there's an ass for every seat. We got it.
Yeah.
When you are talking about cars, stop using the word rare. We got to stop it. And if you're somebody that gets drug in and buys a car because you convince yourself that it's rare, guys, there's how many rare cars even on the planet? Maybe 100, maybe 200. Let me give you 300 in history that you go, that is truly rare. The rest of them, come on, man. Got to stop using the words.
I got to correct you real quick. There's not an ass for every seat, especially if we're talking WNBA, unless Caitlin Clark's playing the game. Then there's not an ass.
I'm not weighing into that. Let me tell you what you're not going to catch me doing, watching any of them. That's not happening.
Dude, the highlights of sports highlights sometimes, I only watch baseball. People know this, but from time to time, I'll catch any other sport. And the highlights on social just make it seem like everyone's at war no matter what sport you're looking at, men's, women's. You know what I mean?
Look, I watch some NBA, but look, if there's a fight on that,
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. UFC, obviously. That goes without saying.
So for me, like, I don't know. There's this channel that's on like Samsung TV. I only have one Samsung. It's out by the pool. I turn it on. Always a fight on, by the way. Somehow always, I turn the TV on, and it's like Fubo from Brazil, and all of a sudden there's just some kind of new fight league, and I'm like, yeah, let's watch this. Takes me like 35 minutes to even get in the pool because I like end up sitting down. I'm like, what's this fight?
Yep. Dude, when it comes to combat sports, that is, I should say, it's like baseball and then combat sports is basically right there with it. But I will say before we get to more car talk, Pat McAfee was given the mic and he was roasting some of the people that were in from New York against the Pacers, I think it was. And it was like Ben Stiller and
here's the crazy thing for me. Do you understand the McAfee thing?
I love McAfee. So yes, of course.
Oh yeah. So for me, it missed me. I guess that wasn't. So the crazy thing is he has somebody on his show that I used to, that I know very well,
Sure.
And I've always told him, I'm like, hey man, I'm glad everyone there's making money. Like I support it. He's great on the mic, like an old school wrestler. So I'm into it.
Yeah.
Don't understand the whole show. It just missed me. Like it just kind of missed my whole radar. And now when I look at it, I'm like, I don't know what these guys do. Like, you ever notice like part of the world loves something and you go, oh, I see why they love it, but you're too late to the party.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
a
so
lot of
that
things,
would be
honestly.
kind of like me with McAfee. I'm just too late to the party.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I've been following him since like early Barstool days, or right when he's joined the Barstool team, and then the whole, them having a falling out and the whole thing. So yeah, that's one of the little gossips or whatever of the sports slash entertainment world that I did follow. But anyhow, I got to ask you your opinion on the new Corvette. Everyone's talking about it. Haggerty, your boys at Haggerty actually just dropped the most fire hot boy summer of 2025 drag racing video. I don't know if you've seen it.
I
Have you
haven't
seen
seen
it?
it.
Do you
No,
want to
I did.
watch
I
all the
did. I
content?
did see the short with somebody out at Coda driving it.
Oh yeah, he was all down the street. Old Vin, our boy Vin, who we've
Yeah,
never met, but we love his car
yeah, I
content. He
love
was
his
down the
car
street.
content. Here's what I would say. It looks great in person. I saw it at Barrett. I kind of
Mhm.
told you. I mean, it's a great car, right? What they've done is fantastic. I think it's the biggest turbos ever put in a production
Yep,
car.
correct.
You can't hear turbo spool, which I think is pretty cool. You
Yeah.
know, that like all that kind of like herky jerky spooling up is kind of out of it. They've done a lot of cool things. I'm going to say this. This is a lot of car for under 200 grand if that's what
Mhm.
you're going to be able to get them for here out of the gate, which I think that'll be a little bit debatable with all of the tariffs and all this kind of stuff that's
Mhm.
hit the market. I mean, if you got to raise the price of a Ford Maverick, I imagine that the Chevy ZR1 is going to get, hit with some type of increase that we're not talking about right now.
Right.
But I would say this: any of us, and I've seen so many bad takes on the C8 Corvette. You have too.
Mhm.
If you don't like the design, man, cool. This ZR1, pretty impressive what you're getting for, let's just say, somewhere around the $200,000 mark.
We had a comment on YouTube about the Supra because we were talking about styling just now,
Yeah.
and the comment was just like, "How?" It was literally, "How dare you?" Dot dot dot. The Supra was meant to be fast, not perfect or luxurious. I'm like, one, it's nowhere close perfect or luxurious, and it's barely that fast unless you really modify it.
Yeah,
Just saying.
yeah. This is where
It just has you shaking
I,
your.
I just don't understand. The Supra is not fast by
No, it's
today's
really not.
standards.
It's fun. Don't get
It's
me wrong. It's
fun, right? Just like a Miata. You go
not.
take it on, a track, hell of a lot of fun. And by the way, we've had a lot of people when we brought up the email question where a guy, asked what car, and I said, hey, you should be looking at Miatas. You had a ton of drivers who track a lot of cars go, hey man, that's how you know who the best driver is they get a bunch of Miatas together and have these guys really drive and see what their skill's all about.
Hmm.
Again, Supra is not a fast car. It's just
No,
not a fast car.
sorry to break it to you, buddy.
Yeah.
Sorry to break it to
I
you.
I believe the M5 wagon that weighs as much as a Suburban's faster than the Supra.
Dude, what does that
So,
weigh? Like 10,000
dude,
pounds?
I think it's the same as a Suburban. So,
Crazy.
you know, I just kind of look at this and I go, what you believe about a car doesn't make it real.
Yeah.
Okay. If
Oof.
you really love Supra, awesome. Your fake beliefs about what it is doesn't make it actual real in real life to the rest of the world. Right. So, that's where we run into these issues in conversation because people go, I love Supra. Cool, man. Go buy it. We're going to root you on because we even celebrated some parts of Supra.
Yeah.
It's fast. Got to draw the line. It's not fast for the years that it was built. If this was built 15 years ago and this is the power it had, you go, this is really fast for the time. Now it just looks like a silly car that they didn't really think through at Toyota, which they basically admit by saying, we're done. We didn't do this right. We're canceling it. We're out.
Washing our hands of it. Our first shirt should actually say, "What you believe about cars doesn't make it true," with a unicorn horn on like a Silverado or something to that effect.
You know,
But you want to watch this fire drag racing video real quick?
absolutely.
Okay, let's fire it up. For my boys over at Haggerty, I hope it don't blow your eardrums because it's going to be loud and it sounds awesome. Let's see. Sharing it here. Boom.
This is pretty cool that they got these three cars together. So everybody listening, there's a Revelto, an SF90, and a ZR1. Damn.
Oh my God, listen to that thing! Catch it up! Catch it up!
So I think This is pretty interesting. First of all, it shows why SF90 depreciated by 50% in a weekend.
The comments, though, no way that it's look. Actually, it's right here. No way in hell the Revuelto beats the SF90. SF90 is faster.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know, but the video's
Yeah.
funny.
It's awesome.
The ZR1's going to be cool, man. I mean, that's where you come out. I would say this, that everyone that seems to be getting out of these, and they've obviously had a lot of people that around the country drive them now, especially everybody that's, you know, a bigger influencer, or they're actually in the press like Camisa or whatever. Nobody has said anything negative, which is pretty rare. Like, not even, I'm not saying like they always say negative things, but they usually go, but ... We don't seem to be hearing that about ZR1, and I think that's fantastic. And I'm glad it's being built, and I'm glad that they're going to continue to invest in it. And that's the kind of thing that we have to cheer on, even though I would sit here and tell you, am I going to spend $200,000 on something with a Corvette, you know, look to it? It's not my thing. But that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it doesn't matter. Plenty of people like that platform. They should love that platform. Just because you wouldn't buy it doesn't mean it's not a great car.
You know, it's funny to me with over a solid, I know it's more than 20 years, but we'll go with a solid 20 years of car media on the internet, whether it's articles, blogs, YouTube channels, you know, long form videos. People are still kind of flabbergasted that they're going to lose money on these cars down the road for the most part.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
I get things sent to me all the time, like, "Oh, this is going to really hold its value," or like, "This should be a good buy, good investment." Nick has said it more eloquently than I could ever about cars that actually retain value they might make money off of. But like, we got to all understand that this is a hobby that is a losing hobby at the end of the day. Money.
It's funny you brought this up. You and I haven't even talked about this. I had to explain to somebody recently, and I mean in the last 7 days, when you put the word hobby next to something, fishing, golf, cars, name me one of them anyone makes money off of. None of them.
Yeah.
Even if you just go fish off a dock, the pole costs you, the gas to get to the dock, whatever, it costs you money. So I've had a conversation recently about taking over a car collection. And the car collection's a mess. And there's an intermediary business associate of this owner who wants to tell me that there are people out there making tons of money on their car collections. And I go, okay, I'll give you the phone numbers of everybody that we have fiscal numbers I can show you with the names redacted of very well-run car collections that don't make money long-term. It's a hobby, okay? It's a freaking hobby. If your hobby is watching sports, that costs you money. You may have to get a certain package to watch all the games. If you go to a game, I mean, we know the cost of that, okay? If you buy apparel, your hobby costs you money. That's why it's called a hobby. Otherwise, it's a job. So you have a hobby, okay? I don't know where this got into the ether, but I did see, and I want to give him credit, Ed Bolian did an interview, and he goes, he's never seen any car, that has outpaced just the stock market over a long period of time. And he goes, yes, you might be able to find a 2, a 3, a 5-year window where those cars did really well. But over time, cars don't even rival the word investment. They really don't. I mean, true investments, a real estate building, just putting it in the S&P, those types of guys, we gotta stop this. And I know a lot of people have never been able to look behind the curtain of a car collection. It is expensive, and it is a really expensive hobby.
Yeah, especially when you consider, like, for the average person, how much it takes them to acquire a car that they really want to have fun with.
Yep.
If you go into it, then stressing yourself out about how much you plan on making on it later, or the arbitrage that you, like, took a course, not saying there's not good courses about it, that you took that was promising you this at the end of, like Nick says, cheap mileage, right? Everybody wants cheap mileage. Yeah, that's kind of the name of the game for enthusiasts. But if you go into it with that mindset and then you're upset on the other side of it, you've ruined the experience of the hobby for the
100%.
entirety of that driving experience. Like, that's not the point.
I think you kind of say this probably to a lot of friends and family. The name of the game is buying a car you want, buying a car you love, buying a car that you're going to be excited to drive. That's the name of the game. The rest of it is going to fall where it falls. Okay? No one that I've ever met heavily in the car business really understands what's going to pop next. Okay. Nobody thought hammers were going to pop the way they have. Nobody thought Porsche was going to have this insane run on air-cooled Porsches. Otherwise, these guys would have bought all of them. There were
Right.
people in that market with millions upon millions of dollars that could have bought every one of them, and they didn't. And then they want to go, yeah, I knew it was going to go up. So why didn't you buy 10 of them, Tim, since you knew it was going to go up? Because you have the money. You could have bought 100 of them, but you didn't do that. And by the way, these are real conversations, guys, where people have this insane idea that, well, I knew. Okay, well, why didn't you just go borrow a ton of money because you were going to double your money in the next 24 months? Why didn't you go do that? Exactly, because you didn't know. And if you love those Porsches and you happen to collect those Porsches, all of those collectors go, I got lucky. I didn't. I just liked them. I mean, I know people that collect air-cooled Porsches that will say those exact words to you and go, I didn't know anybody else was going to, I just loved them. And so I just acquired them when I had the money. And when I liked one and I had the money, I bought it. All of a sudden, I have 15 of them. I didn't know that they were going to go up in value. But then by the time you do all the cost of maintenance and all the cost of everything they've done, you guys think they've doubled their money. They haven't come close to doubling their money. Okay, they had to store them. They had to do all this kind of stuff. They had to, I mean, some of these guys have had to do engine out services and all these different kinds of things to get them where they want them, even if they're low mileage, but they don't get driven much. All of that, every bolt, every nut, everything you replace on a car goes into the cost basis of the car. I'm here to tell you, even guys that were into cars that went up in value, if they're smart, they go, I got lucky. I didn't
Dude,
know.
if you could break even, you got lucky.
Yes. I mean, cheap mileage, and we have to say this for all new listeners, that's the name of the car game, and that's where guys who really hack the exotic car market, they buy cars that are 10 to 20 years old. They don't buy SVJs built this year. That's not how they hack the car market. Okay, they hack it by buying exotic cars from 10 to 20 years ago, and then maybe they're lucky that they've hit the bottom, and they're going to slowly go up, and they're going to go up enough for them to make a little tiny profit doing all the service along the way and getting it back into shape or doing an engine out, those types of things. That's the exotic car hack that everybody doesn't want to talk about. It's buying a 20-year-old exotic.
Yeah, and some of the other hacks you might actually be able to make work in today's world. We're talking about 2025 or in the last couple of years and in the future now with the internet is if you have a business, not even like selling cars, but if you have a business around the automotive space, if you have just a business in general where you can, we talked about leasing vehicles for your business on the last episode, if you can make some of that work through the internet because you're really efficient about something and you create an audience and then you have distribution to sell a product, sell a service, whatever, you can play the game at a point at a rate that most people will never get to play if you put that effort into it and if you really want to make that, a big part of your hobby to make quote unquote money. A part of media why I love it so much, I do know the fisherman that literally makes his life off of like fishing, which is like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
He has to be on the water all the time. He's got to be doing all that stuff. But it turns into a bit of a job, but it's still quote unquote the hobby. A lot of people that going back to the pros and cons, the cons being that you see people on the internet with the collections and a ton of cars, and you think that that's actually like it's all sunshine and rainbows. It is not.
No, because actually, the bigger your car collection gets, the more unmanageable it is. Okay?
Yeah, like everything.
So we have a car collection that routinely keeps 100 or more cars. I mean, very rarely have we fallen below 100 in his collection. Guys, it's a full-time job for my company. I mean, not only just the owner, it's a full-time job for us. So he's got to pay full-time collection management fees, scheduling service. This needs to go here. We got to get new tires here. We got this. This one had a battery tender issue. Now we got to go handle this. We got to have a battery replaced. We got to do that. We got to, and then you got to keep the vehicles clean. Then you got to keep them detailed. Then you got to, all of these things. And again, this guy would never, ever in 100 years say to anybody, this has been a moneymaker for me. I just do it because this is my hobby and this is what I like to do. And I can tell you this, the most miles put on that collection are put on by me. They're not put on.
Moving it around the shop.
Dude, people don't realize this. Part of most of the collection issues I've dealt with are the mismanagement of keeping the cars clean and driven. You go into a really messed up collection, almost 100% of the time, the cars haven't moved and the cars haven't been properly taken care of aesthetically. Biggest issue. A lot of cars have been bought improperly when you go into those situations. All that stuff's true, but those people don't care about that. They don't care if they lose all of the money. I've had to go into collections, 25, 50, 60 cars, and every car needed a massive service. That's how far behind they've gotten.
Jeez.
And so you look at it and you give them this breakdown and you go, dude, you're going to be spending millions of dollars just bringing these cars back up to drivable. Happens all the time. Because guess what? You get beyond 3 or 4 cars, it's hard to drive them, man.
Yeah.
It's hard to drive them.
I hope that, and if you got goals and dreams and all, I think that's great. Just don't get lost in the sauce of you want to do what you saw on the internet. Like, I'll give you an example. I can't believe I forgot to send this to Nick about 2 weeks ago. I was at a shop. They had a 90-something Typhoon in there. The guy had just picked it up. Don't remember where. It was an auction, clearly. He paid $256,000 for this Typhoon. It had 600 miles on it, or 60 or 600. I can't remember.
Yeah, let's just call it under 1,000.
Sure, under 1,000. It was there to get. It was taken apart because they were going to PPF it. The interior it was pristine. It was going to get protected on the cloth with something I forgot. But you got to think of it. You paid $256 for the car, and then he's going to spend probably another 10 to 15 on everything else
easily,
because some things had to be everything had to be taken off. Something may or may not have gotten damaged. It needed to be fixed, so that's going to be a whole issue. The battery died, had to get towed, so you got to pay. It's like all these things just started adding up, and I was
my guess is on a 256 Typhoon, there's probably another 40 grand that could be dropped on it just to get the end. You remember when a car's only moved 600 miles in 25 years, 30 years.
Yeah.
Every gasket, engine. If you're really going to be safe about it, you're probably talking about taking all the engine, not completely apart. Don't get me wrong. It's not a rebuild situation, but every gasket, every seal, you probably had bad gas in the system at some point. Now you got to drain that out. Like, people look at this and they go, 40 extra grand. It's like, I'm telling you guys, this shit adds up.
Yeah. That's a whole different ball. That's a different level of the game.
Yeah. I mean, look, you start talking about an engine out service on a Countach that hasn't been driven around, buddy, you might be putting that in a container on the way back to Italy, like, to get it serviced. Like, again, there's a guy in the Midwest that can do it, but that's even, I mean, you're at his mercy at that point. If he wants to charge you $75,000, $100,000, you're going to have to pay it. You know what I mean? Like, there just comes this point where we've gotten to go back to the words rare and ultra rare and car collections and a hobby and everyone's making money. If you're looking at the last 4.5 years, 5 years as the car market, you have a very skewed view of what's going to happen next. Because if the stock market goes down 25, 30% as it does in any recession, which will happen, you're going to see all these collector cars go down. Because guess what? That's what they've done in history. The collector car market is directly tied to the stock market. Almost historically, without question, go look at what you could have bought cars for in 2008, 9, and 10. Okay? Didn't make sense at that time why they got so low. I mean, there's a lot of cars now that are $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 that people were picking up for $200,000 back then. And people go, well, that's a heck of a buy. But also you had to have the money during that time when everybody's money was tied up. So it wasn't exactly a deal back then. It looks like a deal now 15 years later. That's where people get really messed up, is they don't understand the time that this went down. And it really wasn't a deal at that time because nobody had money, right? So it wasn't a deal. It was like, hey, this guy happens to have money. He likes that car. He bought it. He certainly didn't think it was going to be worth $850,000 in 2025. Yeah.
Just an opportunity that pops up,
Yeah, and by the way, still doesn't mean he's going to make money on that car long term. You don't know the cost, the headache, the storage. You don't know. And if that's one car he makes money on, these other 10 he loses money on, the whole collection's broken even or in most cases not made a single dollar and lost a bunch. That's the world. But it's a hobby.
I think we talk about, courses and stuff jokingly. There's a lot of these people that will show you how to arbitrage the exotic world and higher, right? There's just more money to play with in that world. For most people that are trying to buy a single cab supercharged truck, a vet, whatever, go into it thinking, I'm going to lose $10, $15, $20,000 or more, but I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it and then hopefully break even some kind of way, maybe. Just enjoy the process, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I 100% agree.
Too many people are just blowing their wads on money and stress because of these cars. It is what it is.
100%. Absolutely.
Well, before we get into more stories, if you're new to the podcast, welcome to the #1 car-related car culture podcast in the world. We talk about news, trends, we talk about these kind of market predictions, but more importantly, offer you a cool hang every single Monday. Now, also, if you haven't left us a review this month, leave us a review. We had a lot in April. We had less in May. I don't like that. Please leave us some reviews on Apple.
Rob needs you to do some work.
I need your validation. Hey, so Dodge hours ago, according to KBB.com, so Kelly Blue Book, dropped their 4-door debut Charger. I'm going to pull it up for you here. And I got some interesting little tidbit here in the article that I could not believe I was reading. So basically, it looks like what we've seen in the RT or Daytona, I think the 2-door that they're calling. But what was interesting as I scrolled down here is, let me see, where'd it go? Dodge is famous for the Hemi V8, which is used in the last generation of the Charger. Dodge says it will build the new generation internal combustion Chargers only with turbocharged inline sixes. They're plenty powerful at 540 horsepower, but they're not going to be Hemis. I was totally under the impression that it fit and that it would be V8s, but no.
Stellantis just doesn't get it right, do they?
Dude, I cannot believe this dropped 4 hours ago, by the way.
And here, everyone who's going to comment or understand, I understand that the V8 is going to be tough for them to keep in some of these cars. We're all very aware of that. But you had Chevy, if I'm not mistaken, invest $880 million into a V8 plant up in Buffalo. They announced that this week.
Yep, $888 million.
So when you look at this from our standpoint, this is the new wave. It looks like, for whatever reason, I'm sure they could get the V8 to fit, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing is, this has all been botched by Stellantis because they never really put the legacy in place to say, okay, here's where we're at. We're going to slowly wane you off the V8 and build these other compelling parts of the Charger or Challenger market. They went, we had this V8, now it's going to be EV. Can we see how maybe that was not the jump we should have made just from a common sense perspective? Maybe we should have just slowly, gotten people to believe in our V6, maybe had one little EV that was reasonably priced. Is it okay to just say, I'm not judging Dodge or Stellantis on this in any way other than you just didn't do this in the right progression that could have kept this thing coherent? And I think that's the problem here. They had to make the changes. Cool, man. I'm all, but there's a way to do it that every car company, including Stellantis and Dodge, have just botched. It's like the Macan thing with Porsche.
Right, the
You know
EV
what I mean?
Macan.
Guys, keep the Macan ICE, introduce the Macan EV, and then drive the sales of the Macan EV, and then slowly take away the Macan ICE years down the road. And I know there's going to be all these people that say this and that, and there was a way to do this. These car companies just flat out don't know how to make the progression into where they're trying to go.
You hear the word leadership thrown around a lot. I do feel like over the last 2 decades, we've lost whatever good leadership was in that car world. Not just them, but at large.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, the last 20 years of Nissan proves leadership is problematic. The last 10 years of Stellantis and all the brands they own is a complete leadership issue. It's not. We have just gotten away from, I was sharing that Nissan's announced we're investing in the GTR program.
That's what I was going to say as well. I was laughing. I was like, what?
While they're trying to sell their headquarters so they can raise $700 million. It's like, guys, you probably just need to build a decent car. I'm all for you investing in the GTR. Maybe this isn't the time to release that information. Maybe it's time to just go, okay, in the background we have this going on, but we're talking about, we're going to simplify our lineup. We're going to make sure we're committed to quality and building a good car. Nope. We got GTR, and oh, by the way, we need $700 million to stay. It's like, you're right about the leadership issue, but also a lot of this is just, we have had the common sense button turned off in the automotive business for a very long time in certain brands. I mean, there are certain brands that are just, they have no common sense to what they're doing. That precedes the bad leadership, right? That comes before the bad leadership, as the whole organization seems to have lost the common sense of, the better you build cars, the higher quality your cars perform and hold up, the more likely it is you're going to make money long term.
Somebody on YouTube was like, if you could just raise their hand emoji, just give me the CEO position and I'll turn everything around, right? Jokingly, because they're like, it feels like any citizen
Yes.
could just make better decisions than the leadership has. My idea is let's just start like a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter for everything, and this is what we do. If they can raise enough money to save their company, what they do is release a promo video of like a hologram Paul Walker taking the cover off of an old GTR, and that's the GTR they're bringing back. They're bringing back Paul Walker's GTR. Dude, it would change the world.
Yeah, I just and again, I'll ask this question: Nissan, out of ego, walked away from that Honda merger. This is how you save that company. You bring in a competent company and go, okay, let's pick at the bits here that actually work, double and triple down on them. But I need somebody's wallet. I mean, you got to realize Nissan's like acting like McLaren now. Like, hey, we're going to borrow against our museum of cars. You know, it's like, what are we doing here?
What is going on here? Back to Dodge real quick, since we were wrapping up that article. What was crazy here is like, so today, I didn't know like the level of car names or whatever for the Chargers, but today the dealership stocked 2 doors only, the electric Chargers. They're Daytona models is what they call them. Dodge says that they're going to start, or that they've already started taking orders. This is what's funny. For the 4-door Charger Daytona models, curiously, they say, the company has not revealed prices. I mean, they haven't revealed prices, but they've already started taking orders, which I don't believe.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, don't believe
And then
that.
the 2-door in 2025 is going to start at $61,500, including a $1,900 delivery fee. Dude, they can't sell them at $40, and they're starting at $61?
This is not going to work.
Not at all.
I mean, again, I ask what goes on in these boardrooms, and I'm dead serious when I say that. I don't know whether they're just eating bagels and lox and having some coffee and just kind of like hanging out. I don't know what they're doing.
It's George Costanza's office where he's working for Kruger.
They're cutting their Snickers with a knife. Like, well, I don't know exactly what these people are doing in the boardroom, but I can tell you it's not effective. That T-Bone. I think all of us feel this way. I don't know how this all shakes out, because remember this: these car companies, like Stellantis, through almost every damn one of their brands, Nissan, they struggled through the easiest time in the car business to make money.
That's true.
That is the red flag. The red flag is if you go, hey, we've had a massive recession and it's gone on for 4 years. That's why Chevy or Ford or somebody needed to be bailed out. I got news for you. These people at Stellantis and Nissan struggled during the easiest time to turn a profit in the history of the car business, which was the last 5 years. That's the red flag of all of this. That shows you how poorly run they are, because you should have made money hand over fist.
That's a very great point, which it puts an even bigger doom and gloom kind of shadow or cloud rather over those companies as we go into a time which is very uncertain. You know, we're just saying a little uncertain.
It looks like you have a bill, getting through Congress now that's going to have real implications on the car business. We don't want to speculate on that right now, but it looks like you're going to be talking about some tax credits going away, some things being adjusted, more uncertainty. The question that you have to have is, you got BYD who come out and they passed Tesla. I mean, Tesla's basically dead in Europe. Mm-hmm. It looks like. I mean, they're all but dead. BYD is going to take over Europe. Look, man, there's a lot of global implications for the Fords, the Chevys, the Mercedes, the BMW, as this state-sponsored company called BYD is basically taking and flooding the world with cheap EVs. You got real conversations now, and then you got other governments, such as the EU, the US, et cetera, putting all this downward pressure on some of these car companies. And then on top of it, they've been making bad decisions for 15 straight years preceding this.
You mentioned, car sales being down, BYD, Tesla, the whole thing. And what Nick kind of briefly mentioned this before the podcast, and it reminded me that Jaguar, which we talked about a lot last week, and people love those videos. But Motor One reported that in April, new Jaguar, which, oh my God, I got some of these too. They kept putting, say Jaguar one more time, and they put Jag and then WIRE. I'm sorry, Jaguar.
Yeah.
The new Jaguar registration.
Sorry, we don't have the perfect pronunciation of a brand that doesn't exist, basically.
Yeah. So I started commenting back different ways to spell Jaguar. So I was like YHYEY or like WHEY.
Jaguar.
Jaguar. Yeah. So I go, are you sure it's not a soft J? It's like quoting Ron Burgundy. It's
like
jogging.
Exactly.
Nick gets it. But no, listen, with the company in the middle of a rebrand, only 49 new Jaguars were registered in Europe in all of April. 49.
You and I could have sold 49 cars.
I'll go sell them right now after the podcast. Come back and finish the
we could
podcast.
just we could just go and put a bunch of like Craigslist ads in Europe and sell 49 cars.
I'll get spinning signs and I'll get more people in the door that way.
I mean, I don't know what you say other than in your own backyard when you can't sell more than 49 cars in a month. And I get it. People are going to say, well, they're not really building cars. Well, they still got a lot of inventory that's available globally, and they can't sell it. And they can't sell it because of incompetence. That's it. I mean, if they never did the new unveiling, they sell more than 49 Jaguars in April, period, point blank, end of story.
Oh, 1,000%. And I'm just going to bring up the article because people don't think we made it up here. It's hilariously low, 49 in the month of April.
Oh, my God.
So, a lot of car companies not looking good. But this one, it's like you keep stacking them. Like one looks worse and the other one looks worse and the other one looks worse. Like this might be the worst.
There's gonna be a top 10 what happened to these car brands, like, slideshow.
Where are they now?
That's like has a billion ads on it and you can't get through it.
Where are they now?
Yeah, 100%.
Not selling 00.
Well, it's like
whatever
Volkswagen saying, hey, we're going to get rid of this really strange ID label that we put on and we're going to start naming our electric cars normally. It's like, yeah, that was probably the move anyway. Just saying. You kind of knew how to name cars for 100 years. I'm not sure why you guys at Mercedes and Volkswagen thought you had to do something crazy. Like maybe just name the car, how you would name your normal stuff.
But speaking of rebranding and labeling things, I got to pat myself on the back. When we did the Honda one with the eyeglass remark, people were like, dude, it looks... And then in the clip, I added one that looks like... I was like, yep.
Hey.
Pat Rob on the back
100%.
for that one.
You called that in the moment, too.
I did. What can I say? A little bit of...
quick-witted.
Extra caffeine and maybe a little extra something in the bottom of my cheek. I don't know. Look, I got a palate cleanser for you. This has been sent to me too, the same video, which is odd because it's like, there's people listening obviously, but like, it's almost like they get together and say, let's send the same video at the same time. Car audio. Nick and I have talked about car audio a couple of times. Old school car audio. Yeah. Nick's going to be doing some projects on the LX.
The good old days.
Audio. The good old days. What do we say?
Of dolphins jumping when you started up your Alpine.
It is the best. So I want to get your thoughts on this this video because I don't know what this means for this market of aftermarket, old school stuff, but it's interesting.
An old school head unit, right? What if I told you this thing just came out in 2025 and it's hiding some pretty surprisingly clever tech under the hood? You got to love it when someone thinks outside of the box, and Pioneer just nailed that with their latest head unit. It's called the SXT C10 PS. And at a first glance, it looks like it came straight out of the dash of a 1980s vehicle.
How do I get this thing?
Precisely how it was designed to do so it fits in with your old school car. But under that retro face, we find modern functionality like Bluetooth, USB, and RGB illumination all packed in. Here's the wildest part. That little tape deck, it's fake. Flip it down and boom, your USB port hidden behind it. Subtle, smart, totally fits the old school vibe. And honestly, even if you love the classic look, you still want to have your smartphone capability most of the time. Nobody really wants to go back to CDs or tapes when your iPhone holds a million songs. Let's be honest, other basic head units or even screens just don't fit the look you're going for with that OEM appearance. Pioneer said it themselves. The classic car market is growing and a lot of those factory parts are falling apart at this point. So why try to track down OEM stuff when you could throw in something that looks the part and actually works? Bonus points for this head unit. It puts out 50 watts over 4 channels, which means that your music won't sound like it's coming through a soup can. It's priced at around $450. And honestly, if this thing sells, it could open the door for a lot more cool niche gear like this. Look.
All right, give me your thoughts, man.
Look, I told you about the Gunther Works tour. They basically throw a, old Porsche head unit into a lot of their cars that has all modern functionality. Mm-hmm. They're right that this market is growing. At what rate it's going to really grow, Pioneer, has probably done the math and goes, we're not going to sell a ton of these, but it's good to have. I mean, this is, to keep an aesthetic of an old car, this is genius. It's always been genius. Like, if there's a way to upgrade, keep the look, and you got to respect the fact that Pioneer's even doing this. Mm-hmm. Right? Any of these companies are even doing this type of stuff because I don't think they're going to sell millions of units of these, right? So to me, and to everybody out there that likes the old school look, this is a total win.
Do you think you could be okay with actually? Well, no, your Lexus has a screen, right?
Yeah, it's got a
Has the
screen.
old school. Could you have all of your cars not have a screen at all and just be like a regular deck, and you would use your phone for directions?
Yes,
Or
I'd sign up for that tomorrow. I mean,
yeah,
that's
okay,
the whole thing I don't like about my BMW. I don't like the fact that it has the nav. I don't
gotcha.
like that. I mean, that if I could take one thing out right now, I'd rip the nav out. I'd have a single hump, just for the tachometers, and I'd be done. I'd just be done. And
So
to me, that's. But again, you're talking about a very small market of people that would probably be okay with it. I mean, we need to say that out loud as much. I mean, there's people that just love tech in their car, and even
yeah,
enthusiasts that go, "Well, I'm not going to live without tech." I mean, I know people that we do business with that they're trying as hard as they can just to get the audio to be so modern that they'll spend whatever to do it, and that is a form of tech that a lot of guys aren't good with. You got to realize I haven't been able to listen to a radio in my LX 470 since I got the freaking thing, and it
what do
doesn't
you have
bother
like a
me
little?
even a little bit.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought you'd have a little. You would keep the Bluetooth speaker in
Oh
there.
yeah, no, look, I got ways. I got
Oh,
ways to listen to music.
gotcha,
What I'm
gotcha.
saying is, if I don't have it, it doesn't affect my enjoyment, and I just know that I'm in the minority there, in the
So
extreme minority.
if the channel gets not if sorry when the channel gets to a certain size, would you consider taking on that kind of a project for your BMW?
Hell yeah. If I
Really?
could rip
Okay.
all that crap
Cool.
out, yeah,
Make it happen.
yeah. I mean, look, I'm now down the rabbit hole of looking at 911. So,
Oh God, he's still down the rabbit hole.
oh, dude, I think there's going to be some real buys as the economy continues to be uncertain. I think we're going to be able to see some, and it'll happen in a lot of different parts of the market. Okay, I'm just kind of like, I got a lot of things tabbed of. Wow, this Porsche has sat around for a little while. These guys are asking
Look,
too
look.
much as we sit here now.
I gotta tease this on the show because I've only teased it to Nick kind of in theory and thought about it. But guys, if we think about creating a community where we can kind of keep tabs on these markets in a way that it's not just available to everybody, like it's for people, listeners of the podcast, shoot us some emails, clutchculturepodcast@gmail.com, or DM us on the Clutch Culture Pod page or my page, RobGTV, and we'll make it happen because there's just a lot of opportunity to be had to go back to the top of the show where if you're paying attention, you could take advantage in the moment. If you're not, you're always going to be pissed that you never got to take advantage of it.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
and again, you don't have the ability as one person, two people, three people to really go, here's all of these little niche markets and let's keep tabs on them. What I think is going to happen, and I think history tells us this is going to happen, when the economy actually slips into recession, there are going to be some buys, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to be buys in all kinds of, like I told you, I saw a 2002 Yukon, with 5,800 miles or whatever it was, and it's 40 grand. Okay, man, somebody's going to buy that, but also there's a high likelihood that that person's going to overpay. They're going to need to liquidate that, and that might be a $22,000 buy with 6,500 miles on it in a year from now. Now,
I think
that is that going to happen in that exact time frame is I don't know, but everybody is getting obsessed with low mileage, which is pretty interesting because everybody that's smart, exotics, doesn't matter all the way down to normal cars, knows that the value is taking something with more mileage and then just retrofitting and making it actually better, making it look OEM, but using better modern materials and all those kinds of things, like something like the interior or redoing a paint job or whatever. Guys, the value is never going to be buying the lowest mileage of anything because now you're against a whole world's bank account. Okay. If, Jeff, our friend Jeff Bezos, if he wants this 2002 Yukon, you're not going to outbid him,
Oh,
right?
Jeffrey.
You're against him, right? And that's what people don't realize about low mileage is now I'm against the world's bank. Who is the rich guy, rich gal out there that goes, I want this vehicle because I remember my parents owned it and I made $250 million. And here's a guy that's like, hey, I've worked real hard and saved up for one of these. And he goes, yeah, you got a guy that'll pay 40. I'll just pay 50 for it. Well, then you lose out
Dude.
on it. Low mileage stuff, especially of these vehicles we know are not special, is becoming. I mean, you've seen some of this Fox body stuff. Have you seen
Oh,
some of
yeah.
this Fox body stuff?
Oh, yeah.
And you go,
Love me a good coupe.
guys, when you drive that car and you paid $169,000 for it, you're going to get in that car if you're the person that splurged for it and go, yeah, this is worse than I remember. But if
Yeah,
it's
you're
just
gonna
a guy
drive
that
it off
has
a
millions
cliff.
of
You're gonna
dollars, they
drive it
don't
off a
care.
cliff. Yeah, you're gonna drive it off the cliff with yourself in it and be like, "What did
Be
I
like, man, what was
do?"
I thinking? But if you're a multi-millionaire and this is just part of a collection, that's who you're bidding against. And that's what people don't realize about this ultra low mileage stuff. For all of you that are true enthusiasts and you don't have $150 million in the bank, the next 5 to 10 years looks really simple for me. You're going to be talking about high mileage of these vehicles, and you're going to have to live with it, and you're going to have to do some of these things. I know we have an M5 conversation from an emailer. That's where I'll enter into the chat exactly what I think people need to be doing.
I think that might be. I've been thinking about this for a while. The pursuit of cheap mileage is the goal that I think the average enthusiast really wants to know more about, hear more about, and stay on top of. Like we talked about how many tabs we can have open at one time, or saves that we have where we get notifications like, "Hey,
Sure.
this car's went up and down," or whatever is now on the market. If you have more people, like a cool group of people that are actually keeping tabs on these markets, maybe you're deciding between, do I want the LX or do I want a BMW? But you really can't keep tabs of both or whatever variety of cars.
Yeah, because you actually got a job, a family,
Yeah, exactly.
things
You got
going
shit to
on.
do. You're not just Jeff on Sunday brunch being like, "Do I want to buy this
Yeah,
$100,000
sitting on your yacht
body?"
eating grapes.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're not Jeff.
It's not Jeff, but that segues perfect. So anyway, email us clutchculturepod@gmail.com with questions, or if you have interest in this community that we might or might not build, it's up to you guys. The power is in the people.
Yeah.
But that segues perfectly into the emails. We got some listener emails. The first one. To me, the best looking M5 ever. Had a chance to buy a 2002 California car, but really beat up, especially in the interior. The guy wanted $6K. I passed. I regret it to this day. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so
Thanks, Jim.
I know a lot of people that regret not buying an E39 M5 when they had some deal on the table. This is where I think using this email, which is a fantastic email. By the way, I actually love the E28, which is like a mid-80s M5. I've owned E39 M5s. I maybe one day I'll tell the entire story of an E39 M5 that really set me up to buy some other cars. But to Jim's point, this is what the future of car enthusiasts need to get really through their head right now, because it's already here, but it's definitely the next 10 years. Most of us listening are not going to be able to afford a extremely low mileage E39 M5, right? It's just, you're bidding against the world's bank at that point, because you got so many collectors in that market. So how do I get an E39 M5? You're going to be buying 100,000, 110,000 mile E39 M5. And people right now are listening to this going, I'm not going to do that. Then you're not going to own an E39 M5, because that market, and in particular, is just going to keep appreciating on the low mileage side of things. Okay. The fully depreciated out cheap mileage version is going to be the higher mileage version. That's where you're going to get the cheapest mileage. So here's what I would say to Jim. Okay. And I'm just using his email, right? Which is a fantastic email. I got a $6,000 offer. I look at the vehicle's beat up. Let's say I just look at it and I go, the whole interior's got to come out. Okay, there's $4 or $5 grand. I'm just going to rip the whole interior out, have it reupholstered, maybe put the new carpet. I'm going to have everything ripped out. Let's just call it a $5,000 expense. I'm at 11 grand now in that car. I got to go through the engine. As somebody that's owned E39 M5s, there's another 5 grand. It's going to pop up pretty quick, because you can assume if they've torn up the interior that they haven't maintained it. Bare minimum, there's another 5. I'm at 16,000. Okay. I haven't even touched the paint, the front chips, those types of things. Maybe there's another, spot repair, do the hood, do the front bumper, don't paint the whole car because I can refurbish the whole car. Let's say all in all, I buy the $6,000 car, and to get it up to speed, I put another 14 into it. I'm at 20. You're not getting a low mileage one for 20. That's not happening. Okay. Because I sold it pre-COVID for way more than that on a low mileage one that I paid hardly any money for. Those are going to crest in the low mileage at some point. They're going to continue to crest over a 6-figure car probably for the extreme low mileage versions. So I think what enthusiasts, and I know a lot of people aren't comfortable with this, if you're going to keep trying to buy the best version of these enthusiast cars, you're going to play a losing game because you're not going to outbid most of the people in that market. Now, some of you are that listen to this. You go, hey, I got $100 million. I've sold a successful business. I'm going to get what I want. Cool. I deal with those people all day, every day. Yeah, they exist. They'll just get whatever they want. The price is no object. As you saw with the Typhoon that you came
Yeah,
across.
dude, wild.
So what I want people to understand is it's time for you to get, if you really want to be an enthusiast long-term and you really want to get the older cars you want, you need to get interior people. You need to get body shops. You need to get great mechanics on your side in your area. Or, hey, I can truck it over here, 150 miles to this guy over here and he can do the engine work. We have not talked to the enthusiasts because many of the enthusiasts just watch people on YouTube, and those people don't know what I'm saying either because they just buy the lowest mileage one they can afford. It doesn't need that much work. But you're seeing it with a lot of people in the Ferrari market, where we talk about our guy Vin. He buys a 360. He does a lot of the work himself, if not all the work except for painting it. Okay? There's the money. There's how he takes this Ferrari and makes it worth his while because he's putting all the work into it. And look, that is not easy to tell people, but that's exactly where we're at. That this enthusiast market, if you guys are just going to hunt low mileage examples, you're going to get outbid in that market 99.9999% of the time. And so you have to be ready to go, this has some bumps and bruises that I'm going to handle. And I know I just paid $6,000, but I got to be willing to go up to $26,000 cost basis to get this thing right. Because if it's $6,000 and you just walk, then you're going to probably be like Jim and most of us have been, is like, man, I should have bought that. That's what I think the game is now. It's really, that's been the game of people making money my entire career in the car business. But now this becomes the enthusiast reality is, guys, you're not going to find some secret honey hole that you're going to find a low mileage E39 M5 and you're going to pay no money for it. That isn't going to happen. So everything's going to have massive bumps and bruises that you got to be willing to handle with your wallet to keep you under the $125,000 it would cost for the low mileage one. So think about it. If I bought one for $6,000, I got it completely up to speed for a total of $30,000. What a deal! What a deal,
right? Yeah, and that's the mentality that I hope, and I know that a lot of people already have on the podcast that are listening, the listeners of the show, because they have already put in their heads that there's no way I'm spending this money for the older cars, and then the newer cars that are of the same price or higher they have zero interest in them. So it's the only game to play. Get higher mileage, get older stuff, build the relationships, find the shops, and then just enjoy the cars. And when you're done with it, the next person gets to obtain a very well taken care of car that they can continue the cycle for everybody else.
Yeah, and I think you and I would probably. You also have to be willing to spend the money to get it up to speed. There is the hurdle I would say most enthusiasts have a problem with. So they pass on car deals because they don't want to reupholster some seats. That's in 2025 and beyond, that's not going to be an option. Like you're going to have to go, okay, I'm going to get the seats reupholstered. Like that really hasn't been a part of the market. Trust me, this is where I've made my money. Many people pass on these cars because they don't want to fix a front bumper. They don't want to fix a rear bumper. They don't want to reupholster a driver's seat. Guys, you pass on those deals now, there's no next deal. These are becoming rarer and rarer. And the ones that are desirable, the low mileage ones, like I said, you're now talking about collectors. And those collectors don't have a limit on what they're going to pay. They're going to get the car they want, and they're going to pay whatever somebody allows them to pay. So, I mean, this comes to the point where I do want people to follow us to understand you've now segmented the market. These ultra low mileage, 2002 Yukon going for $40-some thousand. You guys aren't paying that. So if that's the vehicle you want, you got to find one for $8,000 and you got to put $7,000 into it for a total of $15,000. That's the game. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying that is the game you are now talking about is in perpetuity. That's going to be the way it's played, period.
All right, we want to try to get to two more here. We got a question from Ryan. Hey guys, just found the show. Love it. I've listened to all your episodes. Shout out, Ryan. You're the best. On this episode, or on your episode about saying you can't get a $26,000 Maverick, you guys are so right on the price thing. From the that price is a thing of the past. I ordered a 22 Maverick for $20,000 even. It was just a bone hybrid, basic, nothing else. I waited over a year for it. My question is about the Slate truck. I'm interested in a small battery, 150-mile range. I've never owned an electric car. I've only driven one a couple of times, know nothing about it or how to charge it. I was thinking of just using a 110 outlet. Is that practical? I have a few hot rods. I'm just used to filling them up and going. I would love your take on that.
Yes, this is a great question. The 110 outlet, if you just plug it in every night and you don't run the battery to zero, and for most people, they're going to use the car less than 50 to 75 miles a day, I think you're going to be perfectly fine, because we have customers of ours that have had multiple Tesla Model S's. They've never put a big charger in. They've always used the 110 outlet, and they've never had a problem. They've never run out of battery. They've never any of that kind of stuff. I have some garages now that have 10 and 20 big chargers in their car collection now. They don't even have electric cars. They just did a refurbish on the building, and they're like, well, we might as well just add these for a future or whatever. But the majority of people that live in a house, I would say, don't put the big chargers in. They just do off 110. So yeah, you're going to be completely fine. You just have to remember to plug it in when you park it at your house. That's it. I mean, and again, let's be honest, that's not some kind of big lift. Just plug it in and go on with your life.
Dude, the amount of people that have pre-ordered Slate every week, I'm like, holy shit.
Let's see. We've said this from the beginning about Slate. Will it make it to production? Some things going on in the government right now could make that very difficult for Slate.
Yeah, Toyota's like, yes, we're in. We're back.
and then they'll be like, hey, we researched the mini truck a little more. We're not going to build it.
Damn it. I thought Datsun was coming back. All right, let's see. Last one here from listener Daniel. Okay, so this was in regards to a different gym, but we talked about the LR4, with the repairs.
Yeah.
He's got a similar dilemma. Tyler writes, this is the exact conversation I was having with myself. He's got a 2014 GX with 140,000 miles. It needs brakes, tires, spark plugs, diff fluid, tranny fluid, or as they call it now, gender-affirming fluid, KDSS,
That's pretty funny joke.
KDSS service, and new shocks. Definitely don't want another new vehicle, but it's likely not worth $15,000 to drop on this. Essentially, what should he do? Should he fix it or make it someone else's problem?
I personally don't think you're buying Lexus or Toyota to not fix these things along the way. So I had this theory that I wanted to put out is, it's amazing to me how many people have defended Toyota and go, well, it's about reliability.
Mm-hmm.
So really there'd be no reason to buy a new Toyota if it was all about reliability. You just buy one with 100,000 miles on it because it's going to go to 400,000 miles, and who cares about the mileage, right? They're going to last forever. Right. But there's always people that defend buying a new one in that way. So I would say this: brakes, rotors, tires cannot be in, and all the fluid changes cannot be in your cost basis, because that's general maintenance you're going to have to do on anything that you buy. Okay, right. So I'm not going to sit here and say where he goes, hey, I'm going to have to spend $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 to get the car up to speed. Well, brakes, rotors, tires, those types of things, that's going to happen on any car you own. The way you have to look at it, which is what the LR4 conversation is I specifically have to do a timing chain that I probably wouldn't have to do if I bought another car. But remember, you're going to have to do tires, brakes, rotors on every vehicle you buy. You're going to have to change fluids on every vehicle that you buy. So I would take those out of the cost basis of your decision. If there are specific things you have to do that you go, if I go buy a new car, I won't have to do X, Y, and Z, then that's what I would do. But remember, all the fluids, the brakes, the tires, the rotors, all that stuff's going to be normal wear and tear items. So I don't think I would include that in my number. That would be my theory.